Hello and welcome to the vlog. A couple of quick notes about this vlog before we get started. First of all, it is out of sequence. Early on you will see me talking about blacking the boat and also painting the bilge, which are vlogs that are coming up but had happened by the time I filmed this one, but obviously haven't been put up as vlogs yet, but they will be coming very soon, so just ignore that. And secondly, this is a bit of an odd vlog in as much as it almost wasn't really going to happen, and then I decided at the last minute I might as well run the camera, so I just got the camera, stuck it up in one position and let it roll in real time. So what you're about to see is, apart from a few edits where I've had to snip bits out or it would go on forever, it's a sort of real-time document of me doing a bit of work over the engine. The downside of this is that most of it is a shot of the top of my head because I'm leaning over the engine and I wasn't moving the camera out, I just rolled it to record. I ummed and ahed about whether to put this one up, to be honest, and eventually thought, well, somebody might find it interesting, somebody might find it useful. Alternatively, you might think it is the most dull piece of video that has ever been put on YouTube. So, if it's boring, just press stop and wait for the next one, which will be, I think, will be the painting the bilge one, and that should have some prettier shots in it. Anyway, here we go. You find me in the engine room at the end of a week of blacking the boat. The blacking's pretty much done, but I have an alternator fault I have to deal with. On the way here, I discovered that even with the engine all switched off, the alternator was steaming hot. Current was passing through, which obviously shouldn't be the case if everything's switched off. And I posted a query on the Canal World forums describing exactly the symptoms. I did wonder whether, having had the engine taken out for the bilge painting, a wire hadn't been put back on correctly, but it all looked right. And in fact, someone's diagnosed, rather ingeniously, that I've got a broken diode in the alternator. And what that means is that even with everything switched off, current can flow from the batteries through it, which explains why it's getting warm. But worse than that, obviously it's just sitting there draining my batteries, because the alternator was energised, it's also energising the split charge relay, which joins the leisure batteries with the starter battery. So the starter battery was also getting drained by the alternator sitting there getting hot. So if I'd sat in any one place for too long, I wouldn't have been able to start the engine because the starter battery would have been flat. The only sensible solution is a new alternator. I mean, you can refurbish old ones, but a new alternator is 50 quid. So I have ordered a new alternator, and what I'm about to do now is attempt to fit it, which in theory is straightforward, but as you probably know, things never go quite according to plan. This is my engine bay, cleared of all the detritus that normally accumulates in here, and the alternator is, roughly speaking, under there. So I need to not only take this board out, but really these boards as well, and probably this side panel, in order to give myself enough room to work. Most of the panels are easy, but this one's a bit of a pain. Right, there we go. And there, that is the alternator. And in theory, it's 3 bolts to take it off. You've got this bolt, which is the one that actually tensions the alternator belt. And under there, hold on, somewhere down there, there we go, with the black one on it, there we go. That bolt and another one matching it under there somewhere, which you can't really see. Now, one thing I must do before I start taking the wires off and the bolts off is actually turn the batteries off. There is a big isolator switch under here. Hold on, where is it? Oh, there we go. Right, which means I'm now plunged into darkness. I forgot that bit. Hang on, I'll get a light. Right, let's start with the wires. This whole bundle is part of my Adverk battery management system, which controls the voltage from the alternator into the batteries. But in fact, I unplugged that a long time ago because it kept complaining about over voltage into the batteries when really it wasn't over voltaging. I think the trouble is that the alternator and the Adverk are not expecting me to have AGM batteries, which do like quite a high charge rate. Anyway, the point is it's disconnected, so I just need to take it off there, which is a ground. And then that one will unscrew fairly straightforwardly. The main alternator output comes off this one, but of course I had to disconnect that because if I left it connected, it was draining the batteries. That was my solution. I had to take that off every time I came to a halt and wrap the connector in gaffer tape and plastic. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. In case, because if this had touched the metal of the boat, there'd have been a massive battery short and everything would have gone bang. So I wrapped it up in gaffer tape and plastic, and it's been sitting there like that. But that would normally go on this terminal. So that should come off hopefully all right. Let's see what size these are. I don't seem to have an appropriate spanner for this, so pliers it is. Right, remember that one, that's W. W disappears down into there, so W goes on there. That comes out of that little bundle there. Good thing about filming all this is that hopefully I can refer back to it if I have any problems. Right, there's a little washer. There's the nut, and the only one on there is W. Now disconnected. I think this white one just... I'll probably need those, won't I? Off the big terminal. I think this just unplugs. Yep, that just unplugs as one complete unit. God, that's filthy, isn't it? Dear me. Yeah, both the main thick wires that go off to the battery are wired up to their terminals, and the other one's wired up to the little terminal. That's apparently this arrangement. I don't even know if you can see this arrangement, but there's two big blades and one short blade, and that apparently is a Euro connector, and it's some sort of standard. It does seem to be rather oily, mind you. Right, let's see if now this one's a ground. See if we can get that off. Ooh. Prove troublesome, isn't it? Let's try it that way. Doesn't help that I can't quite see what I'm doing either. Oh, bloody hell, that is stiff. Oh, you bugger. Right. Hang on a minute. Okay, that's just a ground terminal. And it's an odd-shaped nut as well. How peculiar. Whatever I do not want to end up dropping these down. That was B+. That was that one, that was that one. Right, that comes off. That's the adverc. Now the adverc is actually wired into a sensor inside the alternator, so I'm probably just going to have to cut that. Anyway, that comes off the split charge relay. There's a ground. That's also part of the adverc, but never mind, it can just sit there floating. Right. Well, that's most of the wires. I don't know. That's not supposed to just pull apart, is it? Yes, it is! Yay! Look, that just pulls apart. Oh, that's super. Since I'm not using the adverc, I might as well just take that out. I have a feeling it disappears up. Is that another connect? Oh, look, that pulls off. Oh, rock and roll. What's that one then? Oh, no, it all disappears off somewhere else. However, in terms of detangling the engine bay, that can certainly come out. No. Actually, for the moment, it can just disappear down into the bilge. Okay. Let's put you down there. There we go. Right, that's just out the way. So, we have a clear shot at taking this alternator off now, for which I need one there, and one on this side. Right, let's find a spanner. Okay, 13mm seems to do the job. Yeah, that'll do. Oh, that wasn't on very tight. Right. Come on. Get get it off. Okay, sorry, it's fine. Got slightly oily residue on top of my engine. Well, leaking now. Yeah. I'll explain the drip. I'll explain the drip from the front. Right, there's one bolt from the alternator, so that is now free and you can wiggle it. And that means you can take this belt off, or not, as the case may be. Well, I hope I can, because, yeah, I suppose I will be able to once I get these off. Are they the same size? Yay, they're the same size. Okay. Come on, get in there. There we go. Right. So that, has that got a washer on it? Yes, it has. It's got 2 washers on it. Come on. Right, that and 2 washers. And that is just holding that cable and the split charge relay. It's not really doing anything more exciting than that. Anyway, that can go down there. So hopefully this bolt should just come out. Let's get that on. There we go. Now, is that unscrewing, I wonder? Yes, it is. I don't know if you can see that, but that is going round as I turn. This could take a while. Here it comes. Just launch yourself like that. No, it's not. Now, don't use that loose spacer. It will fall off again. Come along! How much more? Seriously? Oh, I can do it by hand now. I'm not sure it's any more efficient. Oh, there we go. Right, come on. Come on, sorry. It's because the weight of the alternator is pressing down on the bolt, making it harder to unscrew. Hey, there we go. One bolt. Minute, one spacer. One spacer. Oh, something else just fell off down there. Oh, we did as well, a little washer. Right, we'll have that. Don't know where that came from. And one alternator. Now, the tricky bit here is that the replacement alternator does not have this pulley on it with the grooves in it. It's got a single V-shape, so I'm going to have to swap this pulley onto the new alternator. It never rains. Oh! Right, I've just made a monumental cock-up in that I showed you in detail how I got all this apart, and I'd forgotten to press the record button. So I'll just briefly show you it again. Well, not again for you. This is the pulley that was on there, and it was on there. And the trouble is, it was held on with this nut, like that. Can you see that? Yes, I think you can. That's my mooring chain's getting in the way, isn't it? But anyway, this nut was holding it all on. And the trouble was that as you try to unscrew the nut, the entire... Let me move these chains. As you tried to turn the nut, the entire thing would spin round. So you had to brace this to stop it going round in order to get the leverage on that. But this did not want to stop, so I poked a screwdriver through a convenient hole in the mechanism, and that then jammed in one of the bits like that of the alternator, and that meant I could put a spanner on that, hit it with a lump hammer, and that was enough force to loosen the nut because it was on really, really tightly. Having done that, this then unscrewed, albeit with a bit of palaver, and it unscrewed itself off. So it obviously screws on first and then is held on with a nut. Do you know what? I say it screws on. It's not got a screw thread. It's got a very slight sort of thread, as if it were threaded by the act of putting it on. Anyway, the point is I've got it off, so now I just need to get the new alternator, and hopefully just refitting is the reverse. Hopefully. As if by magic, a new alternator appeared. Look how shiny it is. Similar sort of thing, but you can see that the pulley is a completely different type and size. Whether the nut's the same, I don't know. Yeah, it looks roughly the same, doesn't it? So I may not even need that because it comes with its own nut. That's nice. Where did that come from? I don't know. Oh yeah, that came under there. Right. I suppose I'm going to have to brutalise this one in the same way now to get that off. Unless they come supplied less well attached. Let's have a look. No. I'm going to have to brutalise it, aren't I? Let's put that in there. Let's not stick it in too far. No. Now I want to stick it in, but I don't want to damage the alternator. It was alright taking it off the old one, but... Ew. I didn't mind damaging the old one when I stuck this in, but I don't want to damage the coils in the new one. And I can see the coils, which are the crucial part of the whole thing working, so... Right, bear with me, I'll come back in a second. Okay, well I've stuck it in and I'm hoping for the best, which is not really a good engineering solution. But now then, let's see if this will go by brute force. No, it's going to have to be the lump hammer again. I think actually that's just damaging the screw. That's damaging the prop. Right, whether that's freed that in any way, shape or form remains to be seen. I don't think it has. Ooh, this could be a problem then. Okay, now that took a good 15 minutes and a lot of swearing, and as you can see, what I've had to do is jam the fan by putting a thick screwdriver up the fan blades so that it can't turn past there. I'll just hold that in place there. Then that went on there, and then I hit it with the lump hammer several times, and believe me, this was seriously tight. But it is now turning. It is entirely possible. I've buggered up this fan. I mean, I can see marks and scrapes all over it, and I don't think my first attempt using the screwdriver would have done it any good, because that went right in and may well have damaged the coils. But it's all a learning experience, and if it doesn't work, I'll have to buy another alternator, and at least I now know I can do it with a screwdriver. So anyway, I can now take that off and put the right pulley on. So let's do that. Oh, don't tell me that whole thing is now rotating. Oh, you're having a laugh. No, there we go. It is turning. It is turning. We have movement. We have a bit of progress. Will that come off now? Yes, it will. Right. Gordon Bennett. What a palaver. So that comes off. Oh, look, on this one, the whole fan thing comes off. Actually, that's quite good. I can see if I've messed up the wiring. Right. Remember, that looks like that. Now, there was a brief intermission there while I tried to work out whether we needed these spacers, because the one that's just turned up, you see, the new one, obviously the pulley was narrower, and if I simply put this pulley on with the same, there was this spacer and that one, and if that went on, there was going to be no space to put the nut on. So I've taken that one off, and possibly ambitiously, I've taken that one off, and that's going to give me enough space to put that on. I hope that's okay. It needs to be on tight enough that the whole thing will turn that, doesn't it? Is that on like that? It was that was the thick spacer, sorry, there we are. I don't know if you can see that even, but there was that thick spacer, and that made it far too thick. So I've taken both of those off. I wonder whether in fact I should leave the thin one on. I did measure it there and it seemed to be okay, but no, look, that's not even going to go on, is it? Oh, blimey. Not even going to go on properly with all these on. I suspect that one's needed, but I think that one's going to have to come off. Right, let's go with that. I'm kind of making it up here as I go along, which you've probably gathered. Never having changed an alternator before. I mean, the fundamental idea is that the thing will spin round, so have I got that lock nut on the right way around? That's a very good question. Who knows? Who knows? I'm just going to keep tightening this up now. I expect I may have to use the hammer again. Is that even tightening? I'm not sure it is. What's that now spinning? It's not spinning that thing, but it is turning the so how do I make it tighten up? Ay vey. Well, I've put that pulley on as tight as I can, leaning on it and cursing, and I guess we'll just have to see. That may not be the best approach, but it's all I can really do. So now I need to attempt to reattach this. There was a spacer involved here, wasn't there? That went through there, which went on there. Right, there may be some more cursing. I could probably put that through to start with, couldn't I? Right, that just wiggles through there. Oh, look at that, that's through. Okay. That's... No. Looks like there should be some more spacers in there, actually. Ah, there is another spacer. I think that should go in there. Ugh. Got this little spacer thing here, and there's a little gap that looks like it's about the right size, so I'm going to pull that out. Because the real question is where the belt, what you want it to line up with is against the belt on the front of the engine. That's the main thing. It's all got to line up so it's straight in that sense. Ugh. Oh. I now appreciate that in fact I can't get the belt back on with this thing on there. This is going to be a three-handed job, I think. Oh, come on! No, definitely a three-handed job. Right, you go there. You go there. Like a good pulley. You come over here. Aha! Pulley on. Yeah, and it's on all the wheels. Now, where's that spacer gone? Ugh. Now, of course, I can't see what I'm doing. You probably can't see what I'm doing either, but you're in the same boat as me because I'm doing it all by feel, really. I can't help thinking that spacer should be in there, but it doesn't want to go. So, to my great regret, I'm going to take the pulley off again. Start again. Come on, you absolute pig. There we go. Right, pulley off. Spacer in. Oh, do you know what? It doesn't want to go in there, does it? maybe, maybe not. Mostly not. Woo! Right, that's through with the spacer. Now, can I get the belt back on? Move the alternator up as far as it will go. Stretch the pulley belt. Yes. This is a triumph of engineering. Whether any of it will work or not remains to be seen. Right, that's back on. So now we'll put a washer. And now part of this was attached to that, wasn't it? So let's not muck this up. That was hanging off that. I'll be there. Which spanner did I use for this? Was it that one? No, that's far too big. Right, what have I done with the spanner? What have I done with the right side? Oh, I can't move. I'm in agony. I've lost my little spanner. It's gone. It'd be just like me to leave part of the engine somewhere else. Right, play will be halted until I find my spanner. Oh, there it is. That was easy. No, it's not that one. It must be that one then. No. Yes. Ah, there we go. It's a bit awkward. Right, bit of spannering. Bearing in mind, I think that is just holding that lead. It's not actually an earth connection. It's just a holder. It doesn't need to do it, I think. It just needs to not rattle off. Right, this is a much better way of doing things. Seems to be going on forever. Surely it can't need to be any tighter than that. I wouldn't have thought. Now, in theory, this just plugs into there, but in practice, the bloody thing now won't reach. Oh! I know that's still got to come a little way out to tighten up the alternator belt. Oh, there's a little bit of slack on that. Not a lot. Yay! Right, that's in. Pull it round a fraction, there we go. That's not wasted, but it's in, that's the main thing. Let's regard that as a triumph. That little one has a new bolt on it, so I might as well use the new bolt rather than the old one. Get them off. Oh, yes, there we go. Right, so on that one. Where's that go? W stands for something, but I can't remember what. However, I'm going to call it wire. All right, that's enough. Now at this point, of course, I haven't. No, we've tightened that bolt up. We've tightened that bolt up. I need to tighten this one up so as to tension the alternator belt to the right tension. And there is undoubtedly a technical tension for it, but I don't know what it is, so I'll go with the old rule of, can you move the alternator belt by half a centimetre in the middle of its travel? That's what I used to use on cars. Can the alternator belt be pushed down by no more than about half a centimetre in the middle of its travel? And I'll use that as a rule of thumb, and if it squeals and doesn't charge, we'll know that it's too loose. This is an awkward little devil to get to. However, we are nearly there, you'll be delighted to hear. Right, we need a nice good earth on that, so I'll tighten that up fairly well. That acts as the earth for the split charge relay. And actually, now I think of it, the whole alternator needs a clean earth, doesn't it? Alternator connects to the engine as an earth. Oh, don't tell me I should have... Oh, dear. I wonder if I should have cleaned the contacts where the alternator bolt goes on the bottom there. I wonder if I should have cleaned them. Because that's not earthing anything. It's the connection between the alternator and the engine that makes the earth. And I wonder if I should have cleaned that connection. It's a good question. It is a good question. I'm going to hope not. Put that back on there. Right, what have we got here? We've got those. See, I've got little bits left over now. That always worries me. But the main one is this, which goes in here. Anyway, I might just skip ahead, because it's just me tightening a bolt. Alrighty, what I've done is tightened up this bolt by basically leaning on the alternator and then ratcheting it as I went. And although people did say I might need to get a lever in there and pull it back with a big metal lever, I just simply leaned on it, and you know, the alternator belt is pretty tight. I don't think it's too loose. It's hard to know. I may have to just see what happens when I switch it on, but I think that's tight enough. And I've tightened that up like billy-o, so hopefully it's not going to loosen itself. But again, this is something you'll find out over time. Weirdly, there's no bolt on the other side. It just bolts into the alternator. I've also tightened up that one. And I'm about to put the B+, which is the main feed to the batteries. I'm about to reconnect that. And I'm about to sneeze. However, firstly I need to take all the gaffer tape off the B+. Bearing in mind at this point that the battery isolator is all switched off. So, in theory, nothing can go bang, at least until I switch the battery isolator back on again, and that's what worries me. But, yeah. Oh, there we go. Check that it hasn't actually left residue all over the... It probably has left a bit of residue on the terminal, which you don't really want. So I'm just going to get a little bit of sandpaper or something, clean that terminal. This may not be the official way of doing things, but I figure just give it a little bit of a sand with a very light sandpaper, just to get any glue off the masking tape. Besides, it'll shine up the connector a bit. Okay, where are we? We've reconnected this B+, which is the main feed to the battery. I've done it up as tight as I can. Don't think it wants to move. It's really alarming that there's a bloody great earth post right next to the B+. Alright, it's on as much as I think it can be. Now the next thing to do is switch the battery isolator back on and just pray that it all doesn't blow anything up. Hello, I have turned the battery isolator switch on. Nothing's gone bang yet. The next step is to turn the engine on and see if the alternator is charging.
Notice that the alternator has gone up to 14.5 volts, and that would indicate that the alternator is sending charge to the batteries. So that's good, because I've got no other power plugged in and the solar won't be picking anything up.
Also notice that as soon as the engine is stopped, it goes back to 13.5, which yes does indicate that the engine alternator was putting 14.5 in, which is good. However, there was a slight squeal, I thought, coming from the alternator, so I don't know if it is quite tight enough, or maybe it's too tight. It's very hard to know this.
I mean, here's the belt, and you know, it's got a little bit of travel and a little bit of travel here, which is kind of what you expect, but there was definitely a sort of slight squeal coming off it. I might go and find someone and get a second opinion. About half an hour later, and here is the funny noise update. I got a person in for a second opinion, and we certainly could hear a ringing noise coming from the alternator, and it was like a sort of metal against metal, as if the fan here was making a funny noise, and we wondered whether the alternator belt was too tight or too loose, so we mucked about with changing that for a while, and eventually worked out that, I don't know if you can even see it, when I was swapping the pulleys, there were a couple of spacers on the new alternator that were for the slimmer pulley, and I took them off. But in fact, one of them should have stayed on. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. I very much doubt you'll be able to see it. Oh yeah, you can. There we go. There's that little slim pulley. Now, I'd taken that off thinking it wasn't relevant for this pulley, but without it, this was making a ringing noise. Put that little spacer back on again, and it's slim enough that it didn't really push the belt out of alignment too much, possibly a fraction, but anyway, with that on, the ringing has completely gone, and the alternator and the engine just sounds like a normal engine. So we've got, actually that is very, very stiff. I might loosen that off a fraction more. We were mainly just trying to stop it ringing, but that is really tight. So I might loosen that off a fraction, but either way, that's pretty much job done. New alternator. Hurrah!